World War II.
Germany has invaded Poland.
The army that Germany has built up in 4
When
years.
death and destruction came at the hands of Hitler's yellow brother.
A time of terror, starvation, and the desolation of regions. From the development of nuclear weapons to the horrors of the Holocaust, this war told stories of greed, power struggles, and a haunting disregard for human life. But this isn't one of them.
At this point, we're totally helpless. I had one that couldn't walk, one that couldn't use his hands, and one with the leg blown off, and one dead.
What do you owe Franz Stigler?
My life. We flew under different flags, wore different uniforms, but the code, if you will, was there.
It's 5 days before Christmas. B-17 bombers from the 379 bomb squad take off from central England. They are part of the 8th Air Force headed towards Bremen. A few hours earlier, they'd been briefed by Colonel Maurice Preston, who's leading the fleet. The target, a Focke-Wulf 190 plant on the outskirts of the city. Up in the skies, the 379 flew in a formation similar to this, with this corner being the most vulnerable in the formation. It was also called the Purple Heart Corner. Occupying this spot was a B-17 named Yewood Pub, or simply the Pub. Its pilot, Charlie Brown. A typical B-17 had 10 crew members, consisting of a bombardier, navigator, pilot and co-pilot, flight engineer, video operator, ball turret, left and right whisk gunners, and a tail gunner. As other bomb squads joined in, the 8th Air Force pushes deeper towards German skies. The mission has begun. Over Oldenburg, a lone B-17 can be seen in the skies. It's the Pub. It had successfully accomplished its mission, but it was in a terrible state. Following a loss of power in its engines, it couldn't hold formation. Flak cannon shells from the ground, and against all odds, surviving a dogfight with over a dozen German fighters left the Pub riddled with holes. Of the 4 engines, 1 was dead, 2 were barely functional. Only 1 gun still worked, the top turret. Most of the crew needed medical attention.
I had one that couldn't walk, one that couldn't use his hands, and one with the leg blown off, and one dead.
Brown knew they had to get out of Germany, and fast. He asked Doc to chart the quickest course out of Germany, which he does. But there's a problem. This course will lead them through one of the heaviest defended flag zones in the Atlantic Wall. They have 2 options: jump out and surrender as prisoners of war, or push through and risk it all. As they deliberate over this, a small but important detail slips past them. You see, the course Doc charted will avoid the village of Yver, but not its airfield. Meanwhile, in Yver, a Luftwaffe ace stops for a refuel. His name is Franz Stigler. He needs 1 more bomber victory to end the night's cross. As his plane is fueled, he listens to the radio, hunting for targets. Then he hears it, a bomber, flying low, coming his way. He jumps in and takes off with no clearance from the tower. What he sees? A crawling B-17, the Pub. He moves in from below, starting his attack run. Blackie, the ball turret, is the first to spot him. Swinging his turret towards him, Blackie tries to bluff him. He knows his guns are jammed.
I had my barrels pointed at him, and he knew they couldn't do anything because they weren't shooting. He kept closing, I couldn't shoot.
Stigler climbs even with the tail above the ball turret's line of sight. Then he throttles back, sizes up the bomber.
Looked at the flying wreck and sized him up and figured out how to finish it off.
But just as he was about to apply pressure on the trigger, he let go. Something's wrong, he thought. He expected fire from the tail guns, but they pointed limply towards the ground. He closes in on the plane within a few meters to get a better look. He observes the tail gunner is dead. It is blood forming icicles where it streamed from the barrel of the gun. He moves towards the side of the tail. He observes the metal frame had been riddled with holes. Exploding flags had also ripped away the skin in the waist. He even sees the crew tending to their wounded.
Saw him lying in there, bleeding profusely, so I couldn't shoot.
You couldn't?
No. If I wouldn't have seen him, it was different. If I wouldn't have seen a person at all, I would have shot.
They're the enemy.
When you shoot at airplane, you don't think of people in there. You see the airplane, nothing else.
The flag battery up ahead, however, don't feel the same way. He will shoot the bomber down without hesitation. He needs to act. He moves alongside the cockpit, trying to signal Brown. But Brown's focus is straight ahead. Brown leans in to check his engine gauges, praying things haven't gotten any worse. Then he catches a glimpse of something outside his co-pilot's window.
So I'm sitting in the cockpit alone, and I look out, and there's the world's worst nightmare sitting on my right wing. I closed my eyes and I opened them again and he was still there.
Do you remember Charlie's face?
Yeah, I remember this face.
What did you see in that face?
Horror.
Emotions them to land, knowing that it's better for them to be prisoners of war and to be blown up to bits in the air. But the pilots refuse, or actually are confused. They don't seem to understand what he's trying to say. Stigler is frustrated. Leaving the bomber now will be no different from shooting it down. With time running out, he does something incredible. He pulls away a few meters from the wing, making himself clearly visible to the flag gunners. Any German fighters in the area will probably not interfere with him there. He's also sure that the flag gunners recognize his Messerschmitt 109 from his silhouette. But seeing the bomber there, would they still fire? On the ground, the flag commander watches, puzzled. Usually, stragglers flew as quickly as they could over them. This bomber not only has a German escort, it's also cruising while flying at a low altitude. Another important detail to note was that the Germans had some B-17s of their own, bombers that were shot down and rebuilt for training and other operations. With all these details, the commander hesitates for a moment and decides not to fire. He and his crew watch on as two planes cross overhead towards the sea. Up in the pub, Brown had no idea he had crossed the flag zone. He's still looking at the 109. He glances down briefly and realizes they just flew through the Atlantic wall untouched. A brief respite, but the German fighter hasn't left yet. Stigler believes they won't make it to England. He signals again, go to Sweden. No response. The co-pilot is still puzzled. Stigler swings to the left, hoping for better luck with Brown. Still nothing. At the same time, Frenchie creeps into the cockpit. Brown had called him over. Frenchie suggests that the German was signaling them to return, to surrender. At this, Brown grows furious. He instructs Frenchie to go up into his turret and see if he can scare the fighter away. German observes movement in the top turret. He knows what's coming. He takes one last look at Charlie.
He gave a wave salute and left.
What were you saying with the wave?
I say, I hope you make it home.
With this, he peers away towards Germany. Brown stares, still processing what just happened. He knows one thing's for sure. That pilot was a good man. The pub miraculously made it to England. At just 250 feet, he coasted into Seaton airfield around 3:30 p.m. Stigler landed at Bremen to fix his faulty radiator. He didn't return to the Geneva airfield to avoid answering questions about his incident with the B-17. Both parties had to remain silent about the incident.
Did you tell anybody about what happened?
No.
Why not?
Well, I didn't want to look in the firing squad.
All aspects of our mission was classified secret.
Why?
Otherwise, we have to mention the German pilot.
So someone decided that it wasn't good PR to show that a German had a heart.
That's right.
But 6 years later, Brown starts searching for the man who saved his life that fateful day.
The American records, of course, absolutely nothing. I had served 3.5 years with the Royal Air Force. They tried to help me. They had absolutely nothing. Nobody had ever heard of a chivalrous German pilot.
Then, a letter. It's from someone claiming to be Franz Stigler.
All of a sudden, I get this letter from Canada, Surrey, British Columbia. He had markings on my airplane, stuff that I had not put in the article.
He confirms truly that he's the pilot who saved his life many years ago. Following an emotional reunion, they become the best of friends.
Well, what was your favorite tail gunner?
This one looks nice compared to yours.
In 1993, Stigler was awarded the Star of Peace by the Combatants Federation of Europe.
Charlie, would you like to come up here and escort Franz Stigler to the microphone here?
This certificate has been presented to L. Franz Stigler in appreciation of his compassion and chivalrous action. Franz, it sort of leaves me wordless, almost. It could not happen to a nicer gentleman.
In April 2008, the US Air Force presented Brown with the Air Force Cross. The entire crew also received the Silver Star. Stigler and Brown both died in 2008, within 8 months of each other.